Here's a quick overview of the British Government for Politics and Participation, which is Paper 1, Section B of the GCSE Citizenship exam. So the government is what runs the UK and runs the state. Obviously, we refer to it as the central government, and it's made up of all the political parties that won general elections. The Prime Minister runs the government and appoints ministers. General elections are normally taking place every 5 years. However, in the last 5 years, we've had 3 general elections. Parliament is made up of the elected representatives, so they meet, they debate, and they pass new laws. Parliament consists of 2 houses, the House of Commons and the House of Lords, and a political party is a group of people who share political ideas and they work together in order to try and achieve power to run the government. And this can be done on national and local level. So political parties like Labour and Conservative. Now, the Houses of Parliament are bicameral, which means that it has 2 parts. As we mentioned, the House of Commons, the House of Lords. These are both involved in legislation. The House of Commons is made up of about 650 members of Parliament who are elected to run and lead the government. They represent local areas and they often will reflect the needs of the people who voted them into power, their constituency. The House of Lords is made up of life peers, so people who have an expertise, a specialism or a skill in a specific area and therefore advise the government and also debate and help with bills and legislation. You might find hereditary peers, people who have the Lord's title passed down through their family and have inherited it. And also you have Lords spiritual, who are bishops who represent the church and religious debates within the House of Lords. And then the monarch is the king or the queen. So in this case, we currently have a queen. These are the most powerful people in the country. But obviously in role of Parliament, the monarch has given most of the powers to Parliament, to prime ministers, to run the country. So essentially the role of the monarch in this case is to sign off on any laws, and this is what we call royal assent. And obviously the monarch must also agree if the prime minister wants to call a general election and change the government. The role of Parliament is broken into different roles. So Parliament is there to represent the people of the country when new laws are brought in, to debate these laws. The government is the people in charge, you mentioned before, so they are the ones who run in the country. Often they're the largest party and will therefore be the ones who have more power in making and creating and changing existing laws. The cabinet are the most important members of a government party. So these are ministers or members of MPs who have been promoted to roles that run specific departments or sections of the country. So Chancellor for the Exchequer, Minister for Health, Minister for Education. So they run parts of the UK. And the opposition would be the other political parties. These are the ones who are not in power and are in opposition to the running government. They also take on the role of shadow ministers or shadow cabinet, who can eventually step into the role if there was a change in political power. Other key institutions that we should mention here would be the civil service. So civil servants are members of the public who are employed by government to administer policies. These are all the people working within the House of Parliament, within politics, doing all the work and making all the processes take place. So when a law is created, these will be the ones who kind of work on the stuff behind the scenes to make it happen. And often they have permanent positions. So despite government changes, they will always have their role within government. So the key thing is that they are generally to remain impartial. Judiciary is the judges, the legal system. So again, they also have to try and show political impartiality, and they're involved in decision making, but also ensuring that all citizens, whether they are MPs or everyday people, are given equal rights and treated fairly by the courts. And then the police as well is not centrally controlled by the government. So instead it's controlled by regional, local level police crime commissions. So these are people who run the police in a specific area. This ensures that the rule of law is implemented in a politically impartial way, and again it meets the needs of a specific area. When a law is created, there are 3 ways that laws can come into being. So the first is that they might be proposed by government, which is a public bill. They could be proposed by an individual MP, which would be a private member's bill. or they can be proposed by an organisation or a charity, and obviously MPs can bring those forward, which would be a private bill. Government bills, or public bills, are proposals for new laws, and again account for most of the laws that are passed. The Parliament also holds the government to account. So when a law is implemented or suggested, there are debates in which a law can be discussed and challenged, and there are also committees of MPs and Lords who will scrutinise any proposed bill to look for flaws or errors. In the lawmaking process, a bill will pass between the House of Lords and the House of Commons several times in what we call political ping pong, or parliamentary ping pong, as the law is sort of, they work out the errors and the bugs and mistakes and prepare it to be passed into legal law.